We deeply appreciate you giving us your time to join this this gathering. It's called a CART conversation gathering, and that's really what it's supposed to be, a conversation. The intent of the gathering tonight is information. It's an informational meeting. It's structured to provide you with information to hopefully help you promote CART in your district, in your club, and in your community. And as we say, every time we have one of these, it's structured for an hour, so we won't take much of your time. But if you want to see something on the agenda for future gatherings, either let Tiffany and myself know, and we'll be glad to include other things. If you're a CART chair, a CART Fund District chair, I want to tell you that we deeply appreciate you. We don't tell you enough how much we appreciate you. This is a volunteer organization, and your efforts are very much needed and very much appreciated, and we just don't thank you enough. So thank you once again for what you do to promote CART in your district, your club, and your community. And we'll turn it over to Tiffany.
As you know, June 30th is the end of the fiscal year for both Rotary and CART. And so we will be beginning a new Rotary year, a new CART year starting July 1, but we are not slowing down with any of the events and activities that we are involved in. And so we have Lunch and Learns, as you may recall. For some of you who are newer, you may not be familiar with them. We call them Lunch a la Carte. And it is where we have a previous grant recipient that joins us during the lunchtime from 12 to 1 Eastern time. And they give a presentation on an update of their research, also the world of Alzheimer's and dementia research. And then they leave time at the end for questions. And they have been very effective. They are not just open to all of you all, but to anyone in your clubs, in your districts, but also to anyone in the community that you know of that may be interested in learning more about what we are doing or what our researchers are doing. And so those dates are actually scheduled from now until next January. They are all on the CART calendar. You can find them in two different places. As a reminder, you can go to the CART Fund website, which is cartfund.org. And if you go to the page that says special events and fundraisers, there's a drop down where you can click calendar. And when you click there, it will take you to an actual calendar that you can see every event that we have on there, whether it's a club event, a district event, or a community and public event. And you can get information on those there. Other place you can find them is if your club and district participates and works with DACDB, the district and club database, then you can go to the calendar in that database. Be sure at the top you select multi-district events, and then you will find everything that CART has coming up there as well. That is the location that you can go to register for these events and get emails and get final information. But I will remind you that we use this same Zoom link for every meeting that we have. So if at the last minute you ever can't find the Zoom link, remember it's the one you used previously. But later in the night tonight, I'm going to share with you a new update that I'm doing on that. We're going to try something new to see if that will be helpful for folks.
Tiffany put on the agenda tonight kind of a summary of the annual meeting. Some of you went to the annual meeting, and you probably don't. You're probably sitting there thinking, I don't need a summary. With a lot of new folks who joined us, and I just wanted to give you a kind of a brief summary of our annual meeting. On May the 2nd, we met for our annual meeting, and at that meeting, we awarded $800,000 in research grants. As a routine tradition for CART Fund, we award our grants at the annual meeting the first Tuesday of May every year. It's kind of tradition. We can change it, but that's what we've done up to now. I want you to think about something. This organization was created in 1995 with the premise that Rotarians would come to their club meeting and dump some coins in a bucket, and the club would accumulate the coins and give them away in the form of grants. That's how it started. Now, from that really unusual idea, we've given away $12 million. Just think about it. That's a lot of coins, folks. That really is a lot of coins. It started in 1995. It took until 1999 to collect enough money for the first grant. And then it took another 2 years, 2001, to collect enough for the second grant. But since 2001, we've given a grant or multiple grants every single year to try to find a cure for Alzheimer's. I mean, that's phenomenal from this really crazy idea. And it's all because of you guys. It's all because of volunteers like you that we have accomplished what we have. This year's grants went to three researchers. The first one was a $300,000 Roger Ackerman Memorial Grant. It went to Dr. Anton Laveau, who is with the Cleveland Clinic Foundation in Cleveland, Ohio. You can read about his grant research project on our website. The second grant went to Dr. Gopal Thinakan, and he is with the University of South Florida in Tampa, and he received a $250,000 John Trojanowski Memorial Grant. Both of these gentlemen are extremely personable. They were very easy to talk to, and their grants are wonderful. The third grant recipient is Dr. Zion Chim, and she is with the Washington University in St. Louis, and she received a $250,000 grant. Her grant was a little more difficult to understand, but it was phenomenal in terms of what all three of these folks are looking forward to trying to do. Just for information, for those of you who are not familiar with how we do things, when we award a grant, the recipient gets 25%. And 8 months later, they give us a report that says, this is where we are, this is an update. And they also have to give us a financial report. And when we receive both of those two information, they get 25% more. And that goes on every 8 months until the project is completed. And at the end of the project, we get a final report, and the final report must be publishable to the public. We don't want any secrets here. We want to share information from one researcher to another. So just think about this for a minute. We've given away $12 million in grants. And I'll bet you our founder, Roger Ackerman, would be extremely pleased if he were still around. He really would. But let me remind you of something. We can only do this because of a lot of volunteers, a whole bunch of volunteers. And our goal has been and always will be to put 100% of what is donated into research. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But that's kind of an overview of our annual meeting. And we'll turn it back over to Tiffany.
All right. So the next thing that we wanted to mention is the growth that we are seeing in CART. And as all of you know by now, and many of you, it's why you are on this call, is that we were on the cover of the Rotary magazine for the month of May, and what an amazing opportunity that was for us. But with that comes a lot of opportunities, and we are thrilled that we are expanding beyond zones 32 and 33 in our eastern seaboard of the United States, and our districts that we have become comfortable in for many, many years. And so I just wanted to quickly give you a little list of some of the districts that we're starting to work with, and let you know that some of these folks are on with us tonight, and solely for the reason that they saw this in the magazine and they wanted to become champions for our cause and be a part of our team. And you're going to see them in a lot of things, coming up in the next few months. But I wanted you, in case you're here with us every month, to say, who is Chris Kleber and why have I never seen him before? So Dr. Kleber is a dentist a retired dentist in California, who read the magazine article and called me and said, put me in, coach, I'm ready, let's make this happen. And we are very excited to have his district in California as one of two districts on the West Coast. Kathy is here, and I'm trying to get this right. Is that Idaho? No.
Colorado.
Colorado, Fort Collins.
1 hour north of Denver.
Yes, the Fort Collins Club, and they also read about us in the magazine and are going to get involved. And Rod has been shipping buckets all over the place, and we're very excited about that. Also on the call tonight is Ann Super, and Ann is actually in our zone. She's in District 7720, but she is the new district chair there. We haven't really had an active one in that district for quite a long time. And Ann, we're really excited to have you joining us as well, and we're looking forward to getting to know you and to you being part of our active team as well.
Yeah, I'm anxious to help as much as I can.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then we also have, of course, Natraj is out in Wisconsin, and he's been with us for several months now. With that note, I just wanted to add that volunteers are desperately needed. And so if there are people in your district that have certain skill sets, whether it's working with easy stories or easy bulletins in DACTV, or whether it's website management with WordPress, or whether it's just managing data or working in the portal. Michelle is way overworked in the portal, and we would love to train some more folks that can help with that. We also need people who can do data entry type things, or handwrite notes, or address envelopes, or all kinds of, and fundraising. There are all kinds of volunteer opportunities out there. And if someone in your club or in your district says, hey, I'd like to help, what can I do? We have ways that we can find things that they can do and be productive and really make a difference. I think there's a lot of opportunities for a lot of folks to do that. So we appreciate each and every one of you, but there are volunteer opportunities available if you would like to get more involved. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Rod.
At the annual meeting in 2022, I issued 4 goals for this organization, and the goals were to be completed by May 2024. So they were 2-year goals. And a lot of folks came up to me afterwards and said, you're out of your mind. A few came up and said, great, I'll help you. So we're looking for people to help me. But it's not me, it's the organization that we really need your help. And I thought I would update you on those goals, because we have made phenomenal progress just in the year we've passed. So I'll just kind of walk through the 4 goals and tell you where we are. The first goal was to shore up the CART fund in zones 33, 34. And let me just give you a little background. We were founded in 1995, and we quickly expanded to the states of South Carolina and North Carolina and Georgia. And from there, it blossomed. But because of those 3 states, this organization kind of assumed for years upon years upon years that we were a zone 33, 34 organization. And if you look at zone 33, 34, there's a bunch of districts that for years were not active. And so the first goal was to shore up that and get active within those 2 zones. And I will tell you that as of now, as of May, that we just finished, May 23, we have district chairs, excluding Pennsylvania. We have district chairs in all but 4 districts in those 2 zones. 1 in Florida, 1 in Virginia, and 2 in Caribbean. Every other district besides Pennsylvania have a chair. And so we're very, very active in those 2 zones, much more so than we ever were in the past. So we're making progress. The second goal was to expand the CART fund west. And I think we've done that, tremendously done that. We needed to break out of our zone 33, 34 because, Alzheimer's doesn't limit itself to the East Coast of North America. Alzheimer's is everywhere. And so I'm here to tell you that we currently, today, have 57 districts registered in our portal. Now, that may not sound like a number to worry about, okay? So let me just put it in perspective for you. Those 57 districts represent 7 zones from Rotary. And there are only 10 zones in the US for Rotary. So we're covering a bunch of territory, folks. And I only say that in terms of we need your help, because expansion is wonderful, but expansion is also stressful. And we have a lot of work to do to solidify this expansion. We really do. This spring, 2023 spring, we had CART representatives in 9 pets and 20 district conferences, and we could have done more with more volunteers. So we're getting the word out, and we're trying to make sure that people understand what CART is all about. And we will continue to do that. And we need your help to make that happen. As Tiffany indicated, we had a wonderful, wonderful article in the May issue of Rotary Magazine. That took about a year to put together, but it's really well done. And if you hadn't read it, I encourage you to do so. If you don't get the magazine, call me and I'll give you a copy so you can read it. It's worth your time. Third goal is to raise more money. That may seem like a logical goal to you, but research is extremely expensive. It really is. If you don't believe that, talk to any researcher. They spend most of their time looking for money. And the good news is they have assistants that actually do the research work, but research is extremely expensive. And when in 2022, when I laid out this goal for you, I said, let's raise $2 million by May of 2024. Well, that seemed like a logical target at the time. 6 years ago, we spent all of our efforts trying to get to $500,000. And we were very comfortable with that. And the president stood up in front of us and said, why don't we raise $1 million? So we did that 3 years in a row. And then COVID showed up. And we had a year we only raised $850,000. Well, I'm here to tell you that June the 1st, 2023, in our fiscal year, we have currently raised $2.1 million. That's pretty good. So for the fiscal year 22-23, we've raised $2.1 million, and we still got a month to go. So I sent out a message to all the district chairs on Monday of this week saying, by the way, if you have clubs in your area that wait till the last minute, how about remind them that this is the last minute? This is June. So we're looking for last minute checks to come through, and we've already received several of those, even though we're only up to June the 6th. I will tell you that that part of that $2.1 million is $1 million donation from a single donor. And that donor is in the Rotary Club of Salisbury in the Rotary District of 7680. The donor has requested that we not give out the donor's name, and we intend to honor that request. So be thrilled that we got a big check, and look for other folks to see if you could extract big checks from them. But we will not give you the name of this donor per their request. The goal for 23-24 is still $2 million because I believe that we probably won't get another $1 million check. But if we can get a whole bunch of little ones, we can get to $2 million for 23-24. We are deeply appreciative of every single check, whether it's a dollar check or $1 million check. And let me pause right here and remind you that we have a recurring donor program because we love big checks. We love big time one-time donors, but you know, we're sustained over the multi-years we've been around by people who routinely and regularly give. And we look forward to your increasing the number of regular routine givers. Fourth goal was to support the admin expenses of CART Fund. We are committed as an organization to the position that every single dollar given goes to research. So if you give $1 to the CART Fund, we expect that 100 pennies of that dollar will go to research. And the only way we can do that is to cover the expenses some other way. And so a number of years ago, we created a 501(c) called TRAC. And it is through TRAC that we fund the administrative cost of our organization. We made some strides last fall to cover half of our TRAC expenses for the next 5 years. But we still have to raise money for the other half. And as we expand, we need more money for expenses. Now, granted, our expenses are not big. We have printing cost and website maintenance and portal cost and banking fees. That's it, folks. But that is huge sometimes when you look at what we do. We do all this with volunteers, and we really need the volunteers to help us to raise money to cover our expenses. To get to all four of these goals, by the time May of 24 rolls around, we need your ideas, we need your commitment, we need your input, we need your support, and we need you to find us other volunteers, because the more we grow, the more volunteers we will need. I believe together we can make this work. I believe together we are all working for the same goal, and that is to find a cure for Alzheimer's. And to do that, we need everybody working together. So I'm going to shut up and let Tiffany have the floor.
Rod, it is very exciting what is going on with CART, and a special shout out to both past Governor Luther and future Governor Kevin. I know they are from 76 to 80, where the major gift came from. And I just want to say that it is really a reminder to each of us that there are people in every, maybe not in every club, as I said to Paul earlier today, there might not be someone who has the capacity to give $1 million gift in every club, but there are people in every district who have the capacity to give major gifts at any level, whether it's $5,000 or $25,000 or $100,000 or $1 million. There are people who have the capacity to do that and have the desire and the passion to help find a cure for Alzheimer's. And that is what our job is. Our job is not to to pressure people into giving money. It's to find their passion and help us make it a purpose for them. And there are a lot of us out there that are comfortable asking for money. If you're not, there's nothing wrong with that, because that is something that is a trait that is not something that everyone can do, but there are a lot of us out there that can help with that. If you do have folks in your district that you would like us to have conversations with, we are going to be talking a lot more in the coming year about planned giving and major gifts, and for both operating and research. And as Rod said, that $1 million gift will go directly to research, and because that is something that was passionate for that donor. So speaking of those recurring donors that Rod mentioned, also I wanted to let you know that as of today, we are at 131 recurring donors. Those are members of what we named the Roger Ackerman Circle. For those of you who have not done it yet, it is very simple. You just go to mycartfund.org, which is our online donor portal. And when you log in using your DACTV login, or if you're in a district that does not use DACTV, you create your login for the first time. You simply go in there to make a contribution, and then you select recurring. It can be monthly, quarterly, or annually. And we do have special pins. I've been getting those out to folks. I delivered some today and mailed some to some of you. If you are willing to help us distribute those in your district, if you would let me know, I will be happy to mail you a little packet of them. But just kind of as an FYI, I wanted to let you guys know where we are on that. District 7770 and Governor Bob Gross is online here tonight. They get the shout out for being in first place for the number of recurring donors. Y'all know that's where CART started, and they take a lot of pride in being number one in a lot of things. And you notice they just got bumped down to number 2 in total giving this year, thanks to District 7680. So no pressure there, Bob, but you do have, I don't know, 3 weeks left in this month. But they are in first place right now with 22 plus donors to the Roger Ackerman Circle. In second place is my district, and Michelle and Governor Bill. 7670 has 19, so they're just right behind the other district. And then 2 districts right now have 11, and that is District 7750, Cara, congratulations, and District 6920 down in Georgia. And so those folks are right behind at 11 each. So, but it's growing, so we need your help. If you will make that a part of your presentation when you speak to groups, and let them know how easy it is and how important it is, then we will be happy to share information on that if you need it. We went through a major renovation of our website last year. If you have not looked at it or utilized it lately, I encourage you to do so. We're going to try something new this year. And Terry Weaver is not on the call tonight, so he can't fuss at me for trying this. But many of you have trouble finding our Zoom link. And I know you're not supposed to put it on the internet because that's how you get bots and unwanted people joining your meetings. But we do have it set up where I have to admit every person. There's a waiting room, as you know. So I have gone into the DAC-TV calendar events for all of our future meetings, and I have added the Zoom link to the section of the event that actually shows up on the calendar. So if it is 5:15 and you cannot find your email because you registered today and you didn't get a second follow-up email like the people that registered a long time ago, then all you have to do is go to the website, click on the date, and you'll find it in one click on the Zoom link. And we'll try it for a few months. If we start getting unwanted visitors, we will have to take that off. But we're going to give it a try and see how that works out for you guys. While you're there on the website, if you see on the calendar, there are lots of other events on there, whether it's club meetings where some of us are doing presentations, or the district conferences, or the PETS trainings, or in the case of CARS District, later this month, they're doing a community fundraiser for CART as well. All of those are on the website if you tell me about them. And so if you say, well, ours wasn't on there, then I probably didn't know about it. But if you will send me the information, then I will be happy to get it onto one of the stories, and also onto the calendar. And then I'll also share it on our social media. And so, but again, you have to let us know about it so that we can share that for you. So, but for each of you moving into the new year, one of the things I wanted to mention for public image, which I think is really important, and I'm going to ask you guys to do this as a favor to help us, and that is for you, whether you're a district chair or a club chair or just someone in your district or your club who is very interested in CART and wants to see it grow, I'm going to ask you to find 2 people in your district and get to know them really well. One of them is the district webmaster. And I want to encourage you to find out who it is and work with that person to make sure that they put a link to CART somewhere on your website. Now, if you are in a district that is not considered an official CART district, you're going to need to get permission from your district governor, because we are guests in every district, and we want to make sure that we're not stepping on anyone's toes or overstepping our boundaries or wearing out our welcome. But if you're in one of our official districts that has a voting member of the board and all of that, and we can go through that later if you have a question about that. But if you're probably the one club in your district that's raising money, you might not be an official district yet, you're an official club. So we want to make sure that we get permission. But those of you who are not in that situation, if you would work with your district webmaster, because what I'm finding is that there are still a lot of links that are old, information that is old. A lot of people cut and paste things to create their own pages on their websites, and then it never gets updated. Whereas if you will just have them create a link to our website, that information should always be up to date, and to make sure that they have the correct logo, because as you guys remember, we changed it about 9 months ago, and there are a lot of those that are still out there. So that's the first person that I would like for you to get to know, is your district webmaster. And the second one is your district newsletter or bulletin editor. And it might be the same person. It might be the district public image chair that does all of the above. But your district newsletter is a great opportunity for you to put a story in there, whether it's every month or however often they do it, about CART, to remind people. Maybe 1 month it's about the recurring giving, maybe 1 month it's about the lunch a la cartes, maybe 1 month it's about a fundraiser that you're doing, maybe 1 month it's a reminder to submit their donations. Whatever the case may be, if you will make friends with those 2 people, I guarantee you will get a lot more buy-in into your district, because you will have a lot more participation and you'll have information available to folks. So those 2 things I wanted to ask you to do in the calendar of events. Also, coming next month with the beginning of the new year, we'll have a lot of new things that we're going to be rolling out. One of them will be a brand new PowerPoint presentation that we will give to each of you that you can customize and use on your own. We gave out one last July. We've made a couple of changes to it throughout the year, depending on what was going on, but we will totally revamp that. It may look very similar. I'm not going to lie. I don't really have time to do a completely new one, but we will work on that. We'll have you something new in July, so that when you want to start making presentations to your clubs in your district, that you will have a template that you can use. Do not feel like you have to use it, but the purpose of it is so that you don't have to start from scratch. Chris did a great job of creating one of his own a few weeks ago, but we do have a template that you can use, and it has all the official colors and fonts and logos, and it has all the statistics there. You can simply update it with your district's information or your personal story. So again, that'll be coming in July. And so when you do start scheduling those presentations, make sure you let me know. We'll put those dates on the calendar as well. Okay, don't forget also that we have an annual award called the Changemaker Award. It is basically a volunteer of the year that can be given to any one person in any district every year. Many of you have done that already this year. I know Norm's getting ready to do his at their annual awards night in a few weeks. If you did not do it this year, but you want to do it next year, just remember it's called the Changemaker. We have a certificate that I can put someone's name in and your name for you, and I can email it to you, which you can download and print, and you can make a presentation. And that's what we provide to you. Then we'll help you promote it afterwards on our website. You can see some of them on the news stories. You can see them on our social media as well. Also, something for you to think about as you start planning your year next year. It's really important that you start thinking about things that are going to be coming up. And maybe you would like to have a competition next year amongst your clubs in your district. Some of the districts do that already. Norm's district has the golden buckets, golden spittoons. Our district has the spittoons and the big buckets. Lots of districts do different things. This is your opportunity to be creative and say, I have an idea, and we'll help you do that if you would like. You don't have to get nervous, because it's okay to have a crazy idea. I saw that look that Rod gave me, but it's okay to have a crazy idea. And so now's the time to be thinking about that. If you would like to have a competition next year to offer that, now's the time to start getting it in your mind what you want to do and start promoting it as well. So the other thing I wanted to mention, and then I think there's two questions, and Bob has his hand up. We do have new buckets coming. They have the new logo on it and new QR code where people can donate now, but they are limited supply because, as you may recall, Rod just mentioned, it takes money to do all of this. But we did get a one donor who gave us $2,000 to purchase the first round of buckets. So we're going to be replacing them a little bit at a time as people need buckets, such as new districts coming on, that kind of thing. But what we have determined is that really for a designated gift of about $2,500, we could purchase enough buckets for you to replace them in your district when you are ready to do that. We could share them amongst some districts. So I'm going to be out working on some designated gifts for that. But if you know of someone in your district that might like to contribute towards operating expenses, admin, operating costs, things like that. We just purchased, I think, 1,000 buckets that are coming to Rod's house. And so he will definitely want to be distributing those pretty quickly. And I don't think he wants 10,000 sitting at his house, but if we do them a little bit at a time, we can have them shipped directly to you, and then you can be responsible for distributing them in your district. So just know that the new buckets are coming. We're excited about them, but they'll be coming a little bit at a time because they are not cheap. Okay. The other thing we're working on to go onto the website after the first of the new year will be a new resource library. And we've been talking about that for a while. We're gathering some information that each of you may find useful and helpful. Currently, that information is stored in our DACDB domain. You can access it through a folder, but you have to have the web address. You have the link to take you to it. I sent it to all of you a while back, and for new people, I've been giving it to them one at a time. If you can't find it, let me know. I'm happy to send it to you again. But our long-term goal has always been to get that resource library as a page on our website so that it's easier for you to access, and we're working on that. So I just wanted to give you an update that is still a process, but it keeps moving down the list. When they call and say, hey, we just got $1 million, that kind of goes to the top of the list, and this resource library got scooted down a little bit. So we are working on it. We're excited about the things that are coming up for public image and branding. And then when I said earlier about volunteers needed, we are in desperate need of some volunteers for the public image side. If you have people in your district who have served as past district or club public image chairs and are familiar with things like easy stories and easy bulletins and things like that, please let me know. We would love to have them on the team. Bob Gross, did you have a question?
Just a comment. You were talking about competition, Tiffany. Rod is aware of this. We had one early act club in our district, and you know who they are because they went to your conference. they raised $1,405 this year for CART. And Rod sent me a list of all of our clubs, and not many of our clubs raised that much money. So if these kids can do it, maybe that's a good spur to challenge other clubs. Just a thought.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're going to share that story one day soon too, because that really is a great story. As you know, every month we talk about a fundraising idea of the month. And this month I wanted to share with you, y'all know one of my favorite phrases ever is I have an idea. And Paul and the folks at the Rotary Club of Lake Wylie had a crazy idea this year. But here's what I think is the greatest thing about their idea is the lesson that I hope you gain from them is to use what you have in your community. And what they did will not work for every one of you. I'm going to go out. I'm just going to say that. But the point of it is to think about what can you do in your community, whether a club or district fundraiser that is different and unique. And so Paul, I was at his club today, and I won't I won't steal your thunder and tell how much you raised. I'll let you do that as part of your presentation. But it was our really big check today, the single largest gift in District 7750, all from one event. So Paul, thank you for being with us tonight.
Well, thank you very much, Tiffany. Yeah, I think every good thing starts with a story. So back in August of last, we got a story from a member, and they started talking about, well, my grandfather had Alzheimer's, and I really would like to get something going for Alzheimer's. And we did it in a previous place he had lived about. And it was essentially, hey, we had kayakers that came out and paddled on, in that case, the ocean. And they did a great job in fundraising and getting donations for Alzheimer's. He said, we ought to be able to do something like that here in Lake Wylie. We started thinking about it and kind of got the club excited about it. And it came down to, like, we do have the lake, right? Which is what Tiffany's kind of alluding to. We have this beautiful lake. We don't use it for enough things. Hey, let's look at it from the aspect of let's use our environment and put something on it. So, okay, we said we could do kayakers and paddle boards. That sounds reasonable. Then, like everything else, you got to start thinking about what's a name for this. So, again, this is September time frame. Let's call it Paddle for the Cure. This is where it came from. So it's Paddle for the Cure, actually Paddle for the Cure, the race to beat Alzheimer's. That's the long name. Paddle for the Cure is the one that kind of had stuck. So now we've got a name. Well, we got to start figuring out all the other things that you need to do for this particular fundraiser, right? Because it sounds great. Now we got to find paddlers. We got to find a venue. We got to work on all those other logistics. So in true fashion, you start making teams, right? We got ourselves a fundraising and a sales team. We put together a marketing team, an accounting team, and essentially an event logistics team. Some of the challenges, and this is going to be dependent upon the kind of event that you're interested in running, and ours in particular, we said, okay, it's going to be on the water on Lake Wylie. We got to find a venue that's on the water. We were fortunate enough to kind of go through about 3 different venues and find Camp Funderburk, for those of you may be familiar with Lake Wylie. Camp Funderburk is a YMCA camp that is right as you cross the Funderburk Bridge. So it's kind of in between South Carolina and North Carolina. Funderburk Bridge basically crosses between those 2 places in Lake Wylie. So found this perfect venue, okay? With the venue, you got to start looking about the rest of the logistics. Lake Wylie is an interesting lake. It essentially has property in North Carolina and South Carolina. Our logistics then became very interesting because essentially you got to ask the Coast Guard if you can have this event. So the Coast Guard gets involved. You got to fill out all the applications with the Coast Guard. Doesn't sound too bad, and it's actually not a bad form at all. We do have a member that's on the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, so he helped us out with that particular item. Things get a little more interesting because you actually have to sneak in something with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. That's the one that kind of caught us off guard. So there's always going to be one of those ones that jumps in on you and catches you off guard. Once we got through that process, that kind of drove us to figuring out what races we were going to do and exactly what this event was going to be. One of the things I will share is that it's probably better to call something an event than to kind of focus down on one particular thing. Initially, we had it as races. It really became more of an event because there are different parts that we put into it. We had 3 different adult classes of, I'll say, paddlers, sit in, sit on, and basically stand-up paddle boards. And then we threw in a youth race on the end. So we had 3 5K races and a 2K race for the youth. That worked out marvelous. We had a beautiful day and it worked out fantastic. The other part that kind of comes into that is, wait a minute, the registration and stuff, most of us realize that registration doesn't bring in a lot of money. We might make a little bit off of that. Yeah, you might sell a little food. We had food, we had drink, we brought in live music. So again, the event starts to grow. We also put together a silent auction, and the silent auction was the thing that really made this work. For us, the silent auction, we got our community partners really to help us out tremendously. And we had over 100 items on our silent auction. Things from like screening in a sunroom. We have a member that is essentially a franchisor associated with Express Sunrooms. So he helped us out tremendously with that. To a weekend at one of the resorts on the lake. We had chocolates, all kinds of things came into this silent auction. Silent auction, those logistics were the big item that kind of pulled I'll say the community together, because without them, we certainly wouldn't have got the proceeds that we had. So we had a great number of those. We were doing a 50-50, kind of make sure we had our bases covered. We sold some t-shirts, we sold some food, stuff like that. But those are the major things that went on during that particular day. It was a beautiful day, probably one of the best Saturdays that we've had this year on the lake. We got the local volunteer fire department to pull out their ladder truck and put up a nice flag for us. We had 5 beautiful gals from the elementary school sing the national anthem, and it really kicked off a fantastic day. Like, so we had the 4 different races. The silent auction came in behind that. We did the 50-50, and all those things kind of came together. So that culmination of things really worked together. Nothing happens without the village, right? So the village that we had was not only the Rotary Club here in Lake Wylie, but we have an Interact Club over in the local high school, at Clover High School. So we had a great number of kids come in from the Interact Club. And we also had the Air Force Junior ROTC kids help us out tremendously from the high school also. So those are big shout outs for those folks. Let's see. Community supported us tremendously. Said, and the bottom line is that we raised a little over $18,000. Tiffany became the recipient for you all, but we were honored to be able to basically turn over a check for $18,023.88, because this is a game that we look to the cents, right? So let's keep that going. It was really a fantastic kind of day. We did learn a bunch of lessons, right? Biggest lesson that we learned was we got to get started a lot earlier. There's a lot more little logistics. We actually ran into situations where we had too many, I'll say, young volunteers in certain situations without well-defined items for them to do. So we need to work on some of those logistics. It is a cashless society that we work with. So all those things you think you might be able to sell, if you don't have a QR code or a way for somebody to basically, swipe with their or tap with their credit card, that's going to impact you. And you really need somebody that knows the inside and outside of basically, I'll say, the cashing out process associated with the silent auction. that becomes quite an interesting deal at the very end. With that, if you guys have questions of me, I'll open that up and you can ask me how it went and those types of things. It's one of those things you got to self-promote on the backside too. Lake Wylie has a magazine that gets put together by the local Chamber of Commerce. We got ourselves into that, and you got to just keep making sure that people hear your name, so to speak, and keep putting it out in front of them.
I would just like to congratulate and commend you on what you've done. And I hope we can do that. We have a lot of lakes in Wisconsin. So hey, guess what? Let's do a lake thing.
Yeah,
that happens across the country.
And Madison's a fantastic place to have a great lake.
Absolutely.
We talked about the branding, the public image part. This is a great time as we're looking, and as Natraj just said, we're looking at what are we going to do to get ourselves together and organized. This is a great time to put together a plan for the entire year. Put together what is going to be your email campaign for July, for August. What months are you going to promote an event? What quarter months are you going to do your updates to your district with where they are in giving? And it's too late probably for next week, but don't forget that the first day of summer is the longest day of the year. And that is oftentimes a date that a lot of people do fundraisers for Alzheimer's research, or for Alzheimer's is the longest day. There might be some other partnerships that you want to think about. Get the dates for your district conference from your district governor line and get those to us, and start asking them if we can have a presence there, either with a speaker from someone from our organization, or better yet, one of the researchers, if they're willing to pay for travel expenses to get a researcher there. That is by far the most effective thing that you can consider doing, is having them there to speak. So all of those to say, it was a great event, Paul. Congratulations. I'll let you know that the first 2 researchers that Rod mentioned to you earlier from this year's annual meeting are now on the YouTube channel. So if you were not with us in person and would like to watch those are there. They've been edited and uploaded. And you can also share them on your social media as well. So I should mention too, Kathy from Fort Collins, their club just started as well this month, and a shout out to them. In their first month, they raised $400 for CART. So that is more than some clubs do an entire year. So Kathy, we appreciate that as well. Wanted to say thank you for that.
If I could just mention what we do, because people kind of pass by the welcome table. And so I've made an announcement every week, and then I have an assistant who passes the little bucket around table to table. So people are almost guilted in. And and people don't carry change anymore. So I am counting lots and lots of $1 bills. But our new membership meeting is about 80 people. So it's easy to get $100 a week. So that's what we're going to do, because just leaving it on the table doesn't get very many results. Just a
Excellent.
Suggestion for the rest of you.
Yep. Thank you, Kathy. Well, I think that as usual, this meeting has been full of lots of great ideas, and that is both encouraging and inspiring to me, and hopefully to all of you as well. I appreciate all of our guests who have been here tonight. I hope that you will rejoin us again next month and every month. And if you miss it one month, do not despair. But wait, there's more. It's on our YouTube channel. You can always watch it there. So I'm going to say thank you very much for all that you do, and for being a part of what we are trying to find a cure, or prevention, or treatment for Alzheimer's.